Welcome back again. In this final slide, we are going to look at performance management policy. Performance management has to be informed by policy. Components here should be the scope, policy, rules and legal frameworks, timeframes, procedures, roles and responsibilities, records and knowledge management, the reference documents themselves, and dispute management. The scope. These are grades covered by the PMers, senior managers, HODs, professional, and technical staff. It means that performance management system has to cover all these. Policy specifies staff categories that will be subject to a performance management system. Stipulates that staff should be trained in the appropriate manner to use the system, and each employee will enter into a performance agreement with an employer as stipulated in the contract of employment, which will set out the key performance areas and the reward level. The performance agreement will ensure clarity about the goals to be achieved and secure the commitment of the employee as per actions that will secure relevant policy goals. The purpose of the agreement will be comply with the provisions of the conditions of service. So if it is a performance agreement and it doesn't compel you to comply with your agreements and conditions of service, then it falls off. It states the objectives and targets established for a staff member. It specifies accountabilities. It monitors and measures performance. So that is why it's very imperative that you should understand, more especially on the KPIs, what are you going to be measured on. Very, very imperative. Establish a transparent and accountable working relationship. The supervisor-supervisee relationship, because we can see that it is very, very detrimental for this process. To give effect to employers' commitment to a performance-oriented relationship with its staff in attaining equitable and improved service delivery nurturing. Here are some objectives of the performance agreement. It is one, to build and improve performance of an employee. That's the honest basis for performance agreement. To align the employee's individual performance plan with the objectives of the organization. So that is why I brought in the issue of a company scorecard and a job profile. Job profile is an individual employee document, but the company balance scorecard is for the company. So you mesh the two and come up with one performance agreement, then it will work best for your organization. To agree on the standards of performance required of the employee and the criteria on which such performance will be measured and evaluated. That one self-explanatory. To agree on the measures and timeframes for performance review and the process by which performance will be assessed. So these are the things that are critical, that must be clearly defined in an agreement. The review. Performance agreement review. The parties will review the provisions of the agreement at midterm of the contract. This one is subject to the agreement between the supervisor and the supervisee. The one major review could be at semi-annual, which is the midterm of the period in review. Otherwise, in other organizations, it can be done quarterly, every quarter review performance, so that this one ensures that there is consistency in what is expected in the organization. There are some roles that are defined in performance management system. The first role to be clarified is the role of the employer. To endeavor to create a working environment which is conducive to the employees being able to attain the expected standards of performance. So, to conduct the performance review in a fair and transparent manner, no hidden agendas, in a fair and transparent manner. Take such corrective actions to impose such disciplinary actions, award such incentives as are provided for in the employment agreement, and procedures in general, or organizations' policies and procedures in particular. Organizations differ in which they wish to award or motivate workers in the work environment. So we follow those guidelines if they are stipulated, or if not, then those have to be set. The employee will not be prejudiced in the event that the agreed performance goal, targets, standards cannot be met due to circumstances beyond the employee's control. It's very, very imperative. First, we must understand that this is not an activity that is aimed at stamping authority on others. It is a fair process, an honest process that seeks to improve performance of the parties concerned. That's the terms of this. The role of the employee. As much as the employer has a role, the employee also has a role. We will obliged to endeavor to meet the standards of performance as set out in the agreement, as far as it is practically possible. That's what the employee will come and try to do every day they come to the work of employment. Employee must act in good faith and in the best interest of the organization at all times. The employee must be responsible for the completion and execution of the specific programs. That's the key performance areas identified. The employee must cooperate with the senior manager in conducting the performance review. This one is a responsibility of the employee. Senior manager take the initiative. The employee must cooperate. It's must cooperate. The performance review. Senior managers and the employee will reach consensus on the objectives, targets, and performance review at the beginning of the period. Performance reviews will take place quarterly throughout the year, but major performance reviews will take place once a year. Here is an example with the March, if that is at when the year end for the organization. At year end of the year of end of the organization. If your organization's year ends in April, probably March will suffice. Each employee will do a self-assessment on his performance. So the first thing is the employee sitting down, doing their own self-assessment, looking at the agreement, and then complete the relevant forms accordingly. The completed form must be submitted to the immediate supervisor. Then the employee will be given the opportunity to evaluate his or her performance together with the supervisor for the preceding 6 months. Identify shortcomings and make proposals for improvement. How A and B and C can be provided. This is where the issues of training and stuff like that, gaps that are identified, even before we wait up until the year end. Assessment. All performance assessment will then be done by the CEO for the same period and discussed with the results. All performance results for increments must be approved by the CEO or the senior manager after discussion with the relevant employee. There's nothing that is going to be implemented or finalized without the involvement of the employee. It's about the employee, so it must touch base with the employee. The final results will then be taken into consideration for increments, for rewards, for whatever, after approval by senior management. Performance reviews will be done in writing and signed by the employee and the relevant HOD. A copy will be kept in the employee's personal file. So this is documented performance for reviews in the short term, in the long term. In the long term, we need to look at people who are performing in the organization for other opportunities. That's where we can find the individual rather than to think on top of your head and allow ourselves to subject ourselves to many other, improper ways of evaluating employee performance. And now, it is a performance management system if it incorporates the aspect of dispute management, because it's not all the time where we are going to agree. In the event that the staff member is dissatisfied with the performance appraisal or review given by HOD, he or she will be entitled to lodge a grievance with the CEO, who shall endeavor to resolve the matter in a fair and reasonable manner. For sure, there will always be poor performance and better performance or good performance where the staff member consistently underperforms despite corrective measures. Be mindful of this, despite corrective measures, because the employer has an obligation to help make sure that they're involved in putting in corrective measures being applied to assist the required development. The staff member's conduct represents a material breach of agreement. This agreement is the one that I said at the beginning, the duty to perform. So he or she will be given a notice of this in writing and shall be called upon to remedy such breach within an agreeable period. Termination for poor and unsatisfactory performance. Having done all that we have just said, poor conduct, fair dismissal grounds, conduct, redundancy, statutory restriction, some other substantial reasons. These are few reasons, of which one of them is unsatisfactory performance. So you can see that performance is part of the reasons for termination. But remember, I would like to emphasize this: performance management is not aimed at terminating people's performance. No, the objective here should be to improve performance for every employee. Those casualties may just come by default, but not that we are aiming as an organization to eliminate them. So I hope that management will have a foresight on this, or those who will be promoted to management. Please try to provide for the honesty. Be honest as possible in dealing with performance management. With that said, this concludes our presentation. I've also provided some quiz questions for you to evaluate yourself if you have mastered the concepts in these slides. I have enjoyed taking you through the performance management system. I hope you'll find pleasure in replaying these and the information that comes with it. I thank you.